राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम श्री 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 राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम हरि ओम ओम श्री राम जय राम. We are continuing the same like yesterday. Some friends have asked for certain clarification on certain points. We will try. Again, coming back to the dip in the name, no? We remember when we were children, we were taken to the nearby stream. It was in Wayanad, extreme cold. Even though it was at about, say, 8:30, 9 o'clock, we would be reluctant to enter into it because it was severe cold. But then finally, you just go there, take a dip and dip. The moment we take the first dip, all the other inhibitions have gone. Your body can bear the intense cold. The first dip. But to take a first dip, there should be conviction. No? So when Vanamali said, during the course of chat with advice to Uddhava was overwhelmed when he heard this. For a few minutes he could not utter a word. At last he rallied himself and asked still another question, not for himself but for the sake of posterity. Uddhava said, "O Master, even these things about which you spoke may be difficult for me. Even if I don't have water, what I will do? Your tears are there, he said. Even that is not there. I am not able to go on a pilgrimage. I am not able to offer daily worship to you. The age of Kali is at hand. People have short memories and short lives and no time to accomplish anything. Give me then a shortcut that will lead me to you. Krishna smiled tenderly and replied him, until my advent, O Uddhava, an immersion in the Ganga was supposed to eradicate all sins. But now an immersion in the holy story of my life is enough to cleanse the sins of 1,000 lifetimes. The ones who listen to the story of my life, who narrate it or explain it to others, will sanctify themselves as well as their listeners. If even this is too difficult, O Uddhava, take a dip in the flowing river of my names. The chanting of my name alone is enough to attain liberation. My names are not difficult to learn like the Vedic mantras, which are reserved for the favored few. They can be enjoyed and repeated by anyone, regardless of birth or sex. Sweeter than honey is my name, giving bliss to those who utter it, as well as those who hear it. It is the ripe, juicy fruit of the Vedas. Like a calf following its mother, I myself will follow the ones who call on my name, in order to see that no harm comes to them. Thus, listening to the tapes of my life and chanting my name, you will definitely be victorious over death itself. After studying the discourse, there is nothing more for spiritual aspirant to inquire about and understand. Just after taking honey, there is nothing sweeter for one to drink. So the dip, again the question remains. Even in Ganges, when we go to the Haridwar, Rishikesh, the first dip. So let us watch what is happening in our mind before we take the dip. First of all, we think about the holy Ganges. Prepare our mind for it, And the history says that those who take a dip with all faith and devotion, all their impurities will be washed away, cleansed off. So with that bhavana, when we take a dip. So while chanting, what should be the mental attitude? It is not simply, thinking about somewhere and putting our body there. No. And when a dip covers the entire body, think about it. Many of you might not have the facility, but many might have the facility to have a dip in a holy river when we go. No, it may not be there in the metro towns, but certainly when you go for a pilgrimage, there will be some. Suppose you Krishna, Godavari, somewhere, Kaveri, Ganga, Yamuna, excepting Saraswati and Sindhu. Rest of things are there in India even now. So the attitude, just remember, it is not simply taking a bath in the river. So that proper mental perspective. Otherwise, we are also chanting. Have you reached anywhere? Whatever now Lord Krishna says, have we reached anywhere? So we have to ask ourselves what more should be added to it. We may be chanting, but at the same time the mind is going here and there. Under the pretext of duties, responsibilities, commitment, and attachment, no doubt. The mind doesn't keep quiet, it goes on, though at the appointed time we take up chanting. We have the satisfaction that we have done the chanting. But the real effect? We don't have to look up to somebody. We can look ourselves. Somebody may say, I have got I've been able to get over many of the negativities. Then what happened? Just think. That means the Nama is offered or Nama is chanted with a prayer, with a prayerful mind. and something in our life are aligning with it. The more we get aligned with that ideal of expansion, of me to we, of less and less of possessiveness, less and less of asserting ourselves, the me and mine, to that extent, the chanting becomes effective. We know that. We don't need anybody to tell us, because we are all votaries of God's name. And to just look back and see, then we will really come to know what is really to take a dip. When we close our eyes and chant, and we travel along with the sound, and thinking about the Almighty Lord of the universe who has given this wonderful opportunity to sing His name, what happens after chanting? For some time, for a few seconds, we will be disconnected with the outer circumstances. That is really taking a dip. Papa's chanting was like that. It was not the chanting as we are chanting. He had done lot of groundwork, lot of preparatory work. So it was easy for him to take that dip. And from 1920 onwards, he started chanting Ram, 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 Ram. And the more he concentrated on the chanting, the more he started, realizing that he is chanting the name of one who is seated within. He is chanting the name of, it is that power who is making him to chant. All these things have taken place right from he started this chanting, according to what he says. So that means real dip. It's a very pertinent point raised about this dip. Then so many things come before our mind. Fully getting immersed in it. Another sadhaka has written, on completion of the reading of the book IQG, it can be seen that Papa's surrender to the will of God was of the highest order. We earnestly request you to speak on self-surrender as a spiritual discipline, how to put it into practice in our day-to-day life. Everyone has to keep on trying, One way could be every time we become aware of the bounteous gifts given by Him. Self-surrender means nothing is mine. Everything is His. When that is the truth, I cannot call anything as my own. This is a statement now, but it should become an experience. It should become a reality in my life. How to do that? Whenever we during our off hours, we try to think about anything that comes in our mind. Immediately we try to go to the source of it. Another method could be, when you open your eyes and see in and around you the majesty or the beauty of everything that is there. Even a tiny little insect, if you closely watch, its color, the way in which the Creator has brought out every flower, every leaf, every tree, every stone. We cannot do that. Food items, the different tastes. How he has, in Malayalam there is a poem in which it says, നന്ദി ചൊല്ലി തീർക്കുവാൻ ഈ ജീവിതം പോരാ. One life is not enough to express our gratitude to the great giver. Anything, we don't have to go in search of a particular thing. Anything. Even this akshara, this language, it looks innocent, but all subtle, profound, deep themes are contained in that, An innocent word. So self-surrender, it is a tough job because the me and mine is strong. But the me and mine definitely bows its head the moment it starts thinking about the origin of anything that comes to its mind. Anything. Can we boast anything? Anything, It could be one. Another thing is, so first we try to understand where, Papa used to say, you try to go to the origin of yours as well as the world. That attempt or that effort or that sadhana will definitely make us to know that we are not what we assume ourselves to be. We have no independent existence of ourselves. Even in the outpourings you find that many a times he repeats, you are nothing. So that is one way. Another way is, when we open our eyes, when whatever we see, we go to the source of everything and try to understand that it is He who has given. And then whenever, again the mind may forget. There are slokas in Bhagavad Gita where he keeps on hammering this. As Papa's children, Papa keeps on telling, at least read one sloka a day. IQG starts itself with a sloka, Ananya Chintayanto. So there he brings out the bounteous gifts given by him to us. So Shastras help us, manifestation helps us, our own inward journey helps us, and then we watch ourselves. Are we becoming humble? Or are they staying as an intellectual knowledge stored and ready for sharing with others, but in my life has it come? Fourth point could be that whatever we handle, we have seen from Puja Mataji's life, whatever we handle it with a touch of love, because it is His. That whatever I do be a fitting offering at Thy holy feet. Every day we are repeating it in the universal prayer. You have given. Everything we handle with a touch of love. That means recognizing fully. When we start recognizing that each and every creature comfort or each and every thing or anything that comes before us owes its origin to Him, then the mind will slowly start realizing it. And from the tiniest to the grossest, we will try to handle everything with care, consciously handling everything. These are some of the things which we have seen in the Mahatma's life, of what is self-surrender. Nothing is irrelevant, nothing is unimportant, nothing is insignificant. Self-surrender is the biggest, the toughest thing to get over, agree. To make, not to get over, to become, to practice self-surrender is the toughest thing. Why? Because the me and mine is so strong. The moment we think about that surrender, the me and mine will come with half a dozen things. What have you done? I have done this, I have done that, I have did this, I did this. In the second chapter he says, this is mine, that is mine, I have done this. Actually, nothing is mine. So that is why we are all struggling. But anyway, the struggle is good. If we have started getting that inner conflict, that's a good sign for us. So self-surrender is a thing on which we were listing about 4 or 5 dimensions now. There could be many, many dimensions. Acceptance of everything, contentment. These are all forms of self-surrender only. Accepting every situation calmly. Because we don't accept, it should be like this. We don't go in along with our rights and wrongs. Okay, that would be easy to understand. The prompting has come, you are telling or expressing it. When somebody says something, you equally recognize that God who is seated within you has prompted you. Similarly, He has also prompted him. As we used to share, during Puja Swamiji's days, when some project is undertaken, so many will come and give us so many opinions, We may get confused as to what should be done, what should not be done. So one day when we told Swamiji, if we keep on entertaining all these things, it becomes a non-starter. Immediately, spontaneously, without any irritation, he said, what harm is there in hearing somebody's? There could be something there, which might be useful. We can modify. Why should we not take? Why should we think that what we have taken is the final? God may have His own reason to give you that prompting. God may also have His own reasons to give another modification to your prompting. But self-assertion, it is not there. And many a times we have seen that it is proved. But when somebody says something, that would be beneficial. Suppose we do it with all love, with all sincerity. If we approach it with that bhavana, then we know God is again adding something for a better fruition of what He has already given to you. These are all some forms of self-surrender. Not assertive, Vajjan Gandhiji used to bluntly say that we should become a big zero. Spirituality means becoming a big zero. And that means accepting everything. God does everything. Then why should we poke our nose and say? Ramana Maharshi's way of self-surrender is, simple, in a simple word. Chumairi. Keep quiet. If He has brought us, if He has brought the whole creation, if He has planned so many things, why should we think that we are more wiser than Him? These are all some of it. Again, when you dig, when you churn, you may come across with so many dimensions. So, how to put it in the day-to-day life? Right from small things. We try to handle a glass, the chappal, the pen. Right from that, We may fail, we may forget. But slowly. There is no divider like spiritual and non-spiritual. When we accept everything as spiritual, then this problem will not come. We have assumed too much about ourselves. That is the biggest hurdle for, because we know, no? We feel, our mind says we know better. So we have to be alert. Day for yesterday when we were reading the outpourings, O Ram, Ramdas is thy slave, thy entire slave. He implores thee to strictly watch every act he performs, every word that falls from his lips, every thought that comes to his mind. O Ram, see that nothing unworthy of thee or unacceptable to thee be done, talked or thought of by thy slave. Let Ramdas's action be always right and good. Let his speech be always wise and gentle. Let his thoughts be always holy and pure. In short, let Ramdas's acts, words and thoughts emanate directly from the meditation of thy divine self. This is the cream of self-surrender. Everything comes from him. Yes, then we move to the next. As we read more with a feeling that Papa is motivating us, he helps us to understand more than what he has written. From the first introduction, O Ram, the truth, the love, the goal of human perfection, all he, and subsequent reading we can see Ramdas is already awakened, and just a look at the motivating act of Buddha, Christ and Gandhiji inspired him to throw himself into the vast universal ocean. There arose no doubt while reading it, as I already explained clearly during earlier session, Ramdas preparing himself for the quest of God. So first chapter, where is relief, where is rest? This was the heart's cry of Ramdas. What does it actually mean? Is it simply a sad feeling that arose in the mind, or a prayer to Ram, or a connecting bridge with God? What had happened later on is clearly shows that was the connecting bridge. Prior to that, he had faith in God. God subjected him, Ram subjected him to go through varying experiences where the me and mine was tamed, subdued. And to that extent, Ram's role was becoming more and more conspicuous, more and more clearer to him. Even then, when intense, stressful period come, we used to say that, it is a prayer also. Yes, it's a prayer also. This is too much for me to bear. We may say that. What am I to do? I am cornered. I cannot go this way, that way. What am I to do now? When it comes from the bottom of the heart, it is answered. So it is a prayer, it's a connecting bridge with God. You are right. Because later on we knew that. Immediately after that he heard. Bridge was immediately constructed. He heard. Despair not, trust me, you shall be free. So God had prepared him that much before he made him to pray, Then forward, a part of the time that was formerly devoted to worldly affairs was taken up for meditation of Ram, who for that period gave him real peace and relief. Does it mean that Ramdas was suddenly detached from the worldly things? Part of the time that was totally used means, had he set apart some time for worldly matters. You see, when he was writing, he was still in the midst of various involvements. He has not been fully relieved of all those things. So, he had to attend the weaving section also. When the friend came and promised him to, or came forward to assist him with the financial help, to tide over the liability side, he said, according to what we understand from passage to divinity, he requested Papa to handle the, what do you call that, field work. Administration and finance he will take over. The field work, actually dyeing, printing,
weaving,
dyeing,
weaving.
Not only weaving. He took dyeing saris, printing saris, weaving, so many things. So the field, that was handled by him. So whenever, Ram is preparing, we should know that. He has not been fully relieved. He was fully relieved only on the 27th, on the 26th or 27th December. Until such time this was going on, according to inquest of God. No? So in between there will be a short pause moment. That he was not thinking about anything else. He was thinking about only Ram. Even the period ever so small. It's a beautiful. This is something very, very easy to understand for all of us. As soon as we get up, before we fold the bed sheet and everything and keep it in order, there would be 1 or 2 seconds, immediately Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. There would be such pause moment between two activities. We fill that with God's name. Then we add, but why we are adding that Nama? To remind us of the real owner of everything. So he was able to sever his connection totally on 27th. Until such time he was partly involved. That is why he wrote 2 letters. One for Rukma Bai, the other one was for his friend. Because on 27th he completely severed his connection now. So, then the third question. A great blessing came. I take thee under my guidance and protection. Remain ever my devotee. Thy name shall be Ramdas. How did he feel like that? Ram had taken over him. Or it was a real happening. How did Ramdas know that to happen? It is an intuitional experience, Only Papa can answer that question. So we go by what he has written. The communion with him was so strong, so deep, so meaningful, that he was able to get that reply. We can take it that everything is reported to him. Yeah. Everything is reported. In our case, everything is acted. In his case, everything that he does, everything that he thinks, he is reporting it. Though he knows from the subtle level that it is he who is prompting, still, with the freedom that has been given to the sense of individuality, he reports everything. Not that Ram needs all these things, but it shows the intimacy, Intimacy, his closest connection with him. So, and before that, he knew, yes, Ram had taken over him. Second chapter begins, What is the second chapter? Everybody has forgotten. From the narrow pond of a worldly life, Ram had lifted up his slave to throw him into the extensive ocean of universal life. See? Ram had done it. Never Papa says Ramdas decided or Vittal Rao decided. So Ram had taken over him, literally. That feeling has come to him. We have all been taken over by him, but we have not realized we are the planners, we are the doers. In his case, it has become complete. So literally we can say he has taken over. So everything he was reporting. Vinobaji used to say, when Namdev was asked to go somewhere, Jnaneshwar Bhagavan asked him to accompany him, something like that. He said, wait a minute. He went to Pandharpur. He went and asked Panduranga. They said, can I go? No? To you and me, he is only talking to a image there. No. Reporting, that intimacy. That is the real takeover. Anything and everything we report. Then only the onus of the responsibility is shifted on him. Otherwise he will just upadrashta, he will sit and watch. He will not involve. So Ram had taken over him. It was real happening. Yeah, to him it was real happening. To us, we are unable to understand because we have not even given 1%. If we have given 1%, we would have given 100%. So the joy it gets. So to be more blunt, we only read, we only hear. Next moment, if something happens, we immediately evaluate the rights and wrongs according to what the mind has already defined. We don't bring in the God dimension there. God willed. So Papa is gently making us to think in terms of that. Many people asked him, how were you able to do it? And he simply said, God will, not that Ramdas did. So he had taken over him completely, long stop and back. Swami, then Govindananda remonstrated. Now nice points, very, that means churning is going on and it helps us a lot. When Swami Govindananda remonstrated because the sleeping Sadhu Ram's legs were touching Papa's body and was about to shake up the Sadhu Ram, why Papa did not take it as an act of Ram? The act of Swami Govindananda, and instead supported the sleeping Sadhu Ram. Why are we analyzing this? Both are responding. Accept that, no? And Papa did not blame him. He is right from his own. Papa did not say it is none of your business, no? Papa did not tell him that it was wrong on your part to say so. Nothing like that. From his platform, the prompting is right. From this platform,
yes, Swamiji.
So, Govindananda was also prompted by him only, which Papa did not deny. And we look at ourselves. There is mind, there is intellect. God has given us these, thoughts at the Sankalpa Vikalpa level is called mind. Thoughts which takes a decision based upon knowledge, experience, everything, that is called intellect. So it works. He has ordained that it should work. It may get different ideas. When you go to the office, different proposals may come, but finally you take a decision based upon the previous experience or counseling or whatever, you have. So every prompting comes from God. God gives us these tools called intellect to take all decisions as far as the outside work is concerned. That is the job. We don't have to belittle the importance of intellect. Buddhir buddhivadamasmi, you know. We are not brought to intellect. He has brought the intellect. So when Papa was progressing in the sadhana, and when he knew that God, Ram, is providing him a field to test him, he was able to understand that came from the intellect side. Through the intellect, he was made that he is not another, he is not different. So he acted. At the same time, he did not point out. You remember in various incidents, Papa is not blaming anybody else. Everything is a prompting, even the boys who commented, even the ticket inspector who made him to get down. Now we start thinking that everything was a test, everything was a test, everything was a test. So through Govindananda, Ram was testing. Whether actually he has been in a position to extend himself, seeing God in him, or whether it is staying at the intellectual level. When we take it like that test, that itself is sufficient to get the answer or the clarity on this. Kindly think about it. Chapter number 9, Pondicherry to Tirunnamalai. Please explain fully the Tirunnamalai scene from Ramdas's arrival till he came out of the cave. It is really shaking us all. We too want to get that experience. Now Papa here says, they came back to Tirupakkuriyur. Next day the train carried both the sadhus to Tirunnamalai. Here the Sadhu Ram conducted him to the house of a goldsmith with whom he was acquainted. The goldsmith was a pious man. He pressed both the sadhus to remain in his house as guests. For some days Ramdas occupied a closed veranda in his friend's house for his meditation and rest. In the mornings and evenings, he along with Sadhu Ram would go to the huge temple of Mahadev. One day, the kind Sadhu Ram took him for the darshan of a famous saint of the place named Sri Ramana Maharshi. His ashram was at the foot of the Tirunnamalai mountains. It was a thatched shed. Both the visitors entered the ashram and meeting the saint fell prostrate at his holy feet. It was really a blessed place where the great man lived. He was young, but there was on his face a calmness, and in his large eyes a passionless look of tenderness. Passionless look of tenderness, which cast a spell of peace and joy on all those who came to him. Ramdas was informed that the saint knew English, so he addressed him as Maharaj. Here stands before thee a humble slave. Have pity on him. His only prayer to thee is to give him thy blessings. The Maharshi, turning his beautiful eyes towards Ramdas and looking intently for a few minutes into his eyes, as though he was pouring into Ramdas his blessing through those orbs, shook his head to say that he had blessed. A thrill of inexpressible joy coursed through the frame of Ramdas, his whole body quivering like a leaf in the breeze. O Ram, what a love is thine! Bidding farewell to the Mahatma, the Sadhu Ram and he returned to the goldsmith's residence. Now, at the prompting of Ram, Ramdas, desiring to remain in solitude for some time, placed the matter before the Sadhu Ram. The Sadhu Ram was ever ready to fulfill his wishes. Losing no time, he took Ramdas up the mountain behind the great temple. Climbing high up, he showed him many caves. Of these, one small cave was selected for Ramdas, which he occupied the next day. In this cave, he lived for nearly a month in deep meditation of Ram. This was the first time he was taken by Ram into solitude for his bhajan. Now he felt most blissful sensations, since he could here hold undisturbed communion with Ram. He was actually rolling in the sea of indescribable happiness. To fix the mind on the fountain of bliss, Ram means to experience pure joy. Once during the day when he was lost in the madness of Ram's meditation, he came out of the cave and found a man standing a little away from the mouth of the cave. Unconsciously he ran up to him and locked him up in a fast embrace. This action on the part of Ramdas thoroughly frightened the friend, who thought that it was a mad man who was behaving in this manner, and so afraid of him, of harm from him. It was true, he was mad, yes, he was mad of Ram. But it was a harmless madness which fact the visitor realized later. The irresistible attraction felt by him towards his friend was due to the perception of Ram in him. "O Ram, thou art come, thou art come." With this thought, Ramdas had run up to him. At times he would feel driven to clasp in his arms the very trees and plants growing in the vicinity of the cave. Ram was attracting him from all directions. Oh, the mad and loving attraction of Ram. "O Ram, thou art love, light and bliss." Thus passed his days in that cave. For food he would come down in the morning, and going into the city beg from door to door, and receive from the kind mothers of the place handful of rice in a small lota. When the lota was a little over half full, he would return to the cave. Collecting some dried twigs, he would light the fire, over which he would boil the rice in the same lota. Water was at hand. A small stream of pure and crystal water was flowing down the hill, just in front of the cave, and in this stream it was almost refreshing to take the daily bath. This boiled rice was taken to appease hunger, without salt or anything else, and that too only once in a day. To share with him in the simple fare, a number of squirrels would visit the cave. Fearlessly at times, they would eat from his hands. Their fellowship was also a source of great joy. Every day he would wander over the hills amid shrubs, trees, rocks, a careless, thoughtless child of Ram. It was altogether a simple and happy life that he led in the mountain retreats. The kind-hearted Sadhu Ram would meet him every day, either up the hill or in the city when he came down for Bhiksha. A day came when he received Ram's command to leave the place. Where to? Ram alone knew. Yes, you are right, very thrilling. We all want such a state of mind. So he chose solitude. Solitude for deep meditation on Ram. Unperturbed, undisturbed communion with Ram. He could do so because his wants were very, very negligible. So the mind space is fully there. Comfort zone was nil. Just like, we use the matchbox to light the oven, or when we were having cooking with the firewood, we need something first, Similarly, darshan of Bhagavan was the triggering that triggered the latent, this was there in him, it was touched and kindled, and he was a personification of all these. He was in regular communion with him. Zero wants. Me and mine is not at all there. Comfort zone is zero. Such a personality, after when he got that, suddenly Bhagavan kindled in him. All these things were in Papa, it was kindled in him. That was enough. Because after that, no word about anybody, After seeing Bhagavan, immediately, the kindling took place, and he said he would like to go for a retreat. That too for 1 month. He has not tried it at all throughout that in his life. He has not tried. Just imagine, 1 day, 2 days, normally, initially, why does he do that? But here you find, 1 month. And with zero comforts. Total concentration. The two things, This was the first time he was taken by Ram into solitude for his bhajan. He lived for nearly a month in deep meditation of Ram. He could here hold undisturbed communion with Ram. He was rolling in a sea of indescribable happiness. And then when he came out also, he was able. Yes, everyone, when we read that, everyone would definitely pray, give me that. But then, the mind, conditioned mind we have, it will put various questions. How can you live? Mosquitoes will be there, this one will be there, you will not get your coffee, tea, you will not get this, you will feel so many things, It will be chill. What will happen to your bedding? What will happen to so many from trifle things it will start bringing. You have heard it is all right, but not for you now. So then we try, we make a miniature, something to replicate. In our own place, we will try silently this communion, uninterrupted communion, this solitude, deep meditation. The moment we start trying on those lines, you will find mysteriously God makes conducive atmosphere for us. 100%. The intellect may not be able to answer this. But the truth is, that the moment we start thinking deeply, praying to Him, mysteriously we will find that He offers us opportunities, facilitates us to replicate all these things in our own way. 100%. Babaji used to say, a small photo and a big photo, what do you call it? Enlarged photo. Contents are same. Whether it is a 1 month of solitude or a 1 hour solitude at home, Like that, we will be able to bring out meditation, dwelling on Him, denying the comfort. We need not make a big fuss about it. We need not announce. Nobody need know about it. When our struggle is, to replace the mind stuff with more and more of Him, we need not tom-tom. Because Papa wrote, we are knowing. He did not tom-tom. So this is sure that when we make a move, rather than hearing, rather than reading, when we make a real move, He sees to it that we have almost something like that in our own unique way, accommodating all the limitations we have. How He does, nobody can see. Mysterious. 15 years back, you and I cannot imagine this facility, You are sitting somewhere, we are sitting somewhere. This is something, we cannot even conceive of in our mind. Or 25 years back, something we cannot. But it has been made possible now. Instead of attributing to a scientific progress, suppose we take it that a great facility has been given by God. During the COVID time, when we cannot move out, when you cannot move out, there should be a system by which we get connected. And so He facilitates How do we know he has facilitated? Just think, instead of making us to think about something else, during this 3:30 to 4:30, he religiously makes us to come and sit, And the facilities. So every facility we are supposed to start training it. Then suddenly, yes, at this time, Ashariri cannot be there. So only this can be done as an Ashariri, Akashavani. When we are having radio, it was called Akashavani. But then the vision was not there. Now the vision is also there. We can see, so many facilities. So like that, mysteriously, 15 years back or 20 years back, if we were to know about this, our mind cannot accept. It is a phantom story, But now it has become a reality. Similarly, when we make a move, what is not possible for him? Everything is possible for him. The only thing is we should turn, we should look. That poem you remember? Huh? What is that poem? He says in the poem, God awaits you in the shrine of your heart. Turn your look within. Seek and find him there. His face is shining. His beauty is enthralling. His light is knowledge. His form is love. He is joy eternal. His power is invincible. Powerful. More than powerful, When your little self is one with him, you are he is you. So he awaits you, So that is, so these poems, these revelations of Mahatmas, it gives an impetus, push to us. So that is what he got in Tiruvannamalai. We too want to get that experience. Yes, he is really shaking us. Some more are there that we will take it up tomorrow. Day after tomorrow, not tomorrow. So in the time, this is very enjoyable. We have completed, technically we have completed the reading, but the real now going in starts. All the chapters we need not. Like this, So please, come out with your own findings. All the points raised are very valid, very useful for all of us. It helps us our further journey. It makes us to go. For example, now nobody will forget that a Tiruvannamalai is not an episode. 3 things are there explicit. One is solitude for a longer period. It is for deep meditation. Second thing is uninterrupted communion with God. So these points, leaving comfort zone, living in a contented life, that is all secondary. But the deep meditation only enabled him to have a glimpse of the Lord in everything, both sentient and insentient. So like that, every chapter has got more and more. So by our going deep into it, one point becomes very, very clear to us. Oh, and we also know that was the basis of his universal vision. We also know, yes, another point is, when we go and have the darshan of Mahatma, if we have the right attitude, a prayerful attitude, then we get really benefited. Otherwise, It is only sentimental, emotional, surface level. He prayed only for his blessings, and it touched and kindled what is inside him. And after that, he did not go there every day, to do production, to do namaskar, to say so many things about him. Never. This is what we do, Yesterday it was very nice, but I will also go and rest. You sit there, that's all. But here, the moment it got triggered, how did he went with the right mental attitude? How was it possible? The prayerful attitude he was pleading, mentally pleading. And though Maharshi did not say a word, he could feel that Maharshi had blessed him, and that blessing was instrumental in motivating him to go for the first time for 1 month's retreat. That gave him the first glimpse of the universal vision. So this sort of satsang will be far more effective than just reading and explaining. So kindly continue to think more and more of it and share with us, please. It will be a great incentive, and it helps us a lot. It makes us to concentrate on the points where we have not given much concentration before. So please do that. Thank you very much for all this. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram.